Hello, my name's AJ Goldsby. I'm a life master from Pensacola, Florida, and I just wanted to bring you today. This is an analysis of a 1 minute game that I played recently in the month of November on the chess.com server. And I mainly analyzed it mainly just for fun, but also it's an interesting little game, and I tried to play real chess. I wasn't just playing, fast chess. Most people on the internet, when they're playing 1 minute, many of them anyway, they don't try to play good moves. They just simply try to play as quickly as possible, and just try to win on time. But this is an interesting game because I actually tried to play a real game of chess. In the opening, I tried to just develop my pieces, and my opponent obviously does not play the best moves. In fact, let me just qualify that his opening is far from best, and I think at times he's using pre-move, which is basically just guessing what your opponent's going to do. And anyway, of course, you guess right, it's great. Guess wrong, then it's bad. But anyway, this is just a game, and I'm going to go ahead and analyze that. Here, we'll take a quick look at this. All right. It starts off e3, c5, g3, d5, bishop g2, knight c6, knight f3, e5, castles f6, knight e1. I think there he was just thinking that pre-moving. Thought I was going to play pawn to king 5, and he thought he would outsmart me by playing the knight e1 first. This entire opening, he only took just a couple of seconds to play this whole series of moves, so he's moving very, very rapidly. It took me about 10 or maybe even 15 seconds, but at least 10 seconds to play my opening. Knight e1, bishop b6, queen e2, queen d7, d3, d6, bishop d6, b3, knight g7, bishop b2, g5, a4. Black castle's queenside. Obviously, when you castle on opposite sides of the board, it's an all-out attack to go get the enemy's king. Here, basically, I'm just attacking and trying to just play good chess. And now my opponent plays c4, and I go ahead and close the center. Now is a very critical point. Up to now, White's game has not been terrible. In fact, the computer only says that White has Black rather has a small advantage at this point. But now White makes a very doubtful decision. He goes ahead and decides to close the center, thinking maybe, I don't know, I guess he thought he was going to attack my king, but the attack on the white king is going to come much more swiftly. He plays e4. That was basically dubious. I played h5. Obviously, I'm trying to pry open the rook file here, the king's rook file, h file, and trade off the bishops and give mate on h1. I mean, that's the general idea. Pawn rook 5, bishop h3, pawn takes pawn. If pawn takes pawn, then bishop takes bishop, king takes bishop, queen h3 check, king g1, queen h1 mate. That's a basic mating attack, and that's possible anytime White is fianchettoed his bishop and Black is castled on opposite side of the board. You see that a lot as White doing that when Black plays the dragon. White plays h3. Now, obviously, if I wanted to, that was just a bad move. If I wanted to, I could just play bishop takes pawn there, but I'll admit I was using pre-move here too. I didn't think my opponent would make such a move. I'd already decided to play knight g6, and I'd already played that move using pre-move, so I didn't have time to react to my opponent's move. Then he played knight f3, and I only had about a second here. Only basically had a second. Take the pawn or go ahead and play g4. I opted for pushing on g4 because I decided I'm going to open lines, and that was my whole idea anyway. In other words, I believe always in chess, especially in tournament chess, you should always have a plan, and you should have a plan for your opening, a plan for your middle game, a plan for your end game. For instance, in the middle game, you might be trying to target a certain pawn and attack it, and those kind of things. And whereas in the end game, you're thinking about, well, I'm going to advance my majority or that type of thing, or try to keep his pawns from advancing. But you should always have a plan. And here, Black's plan is just simply trying to play as quickly as possible. Also, of course, if I had wanted to, I could have simply played just bishop takes pawn on h3. That would have been a nice little move, very easy move, giving Black pretty much one game. But anyway, I played g4, h takes, knight h2. Now, basically, this was a position that I'd gone for. I'd taken about 15 or 20 seconds to get here, and my opponent, meanwhile, of course, used a lot less time than I had, and that's why they play that way. They play that way because the bottom line is they're trying to move as quickly as possible and then get you to lose on time. And that happens to me a lot on the internet, unfortunately. I'll just admit that many times I'll be trying to play a halfway decent game, and I'll even be winning in the end game, but then I'll play against my opponent, and he'll he's just simply mouse rating me. All he's trying to do is move quickly. He's not even trying to find good moves. Then in those type of scenarios, I generally will wind up losing on time. Here I go ahead and decide to sacrifice the rook. Okay. You know, I saw queen h7, but I thought, you know, he could get out of that somehow. Wasn't really sure. Oh, knight takes pawn on g4. And so I didn't want to do that, and I didn't see the computer analysis. Obviously, I didn't have time for any kind of real analysis, this being a 1-minute game. In other words, a bullet game of chess with no increment. So basically, I played rook takes h2. Again, the idea, expose the king, now check, king h8, rook h8. And now, of course, you know, black's just playing just straight up chess. I mean, just you're going straight for checkmate. Obviously, if now white plays, you know, if he plays knight d2, I'm just going to play queen h2 checkmate. So there's a threat of mate in 1. Black plays f3, and here, you know, I actually thought for about 5 seconds, and you know, I actually had an idea here, and I played knight f4. I think for a 1-minute game, that's a very interesting sacrifice. Okay, I forget what Fritz likes in this position. Not really sure which move Fritz prefers in this position. Oh, queen h2 check and rook h3. Okay, the machine likes queen h2 and rook h3. I had already analyzed this game out. But anyway, here I played knight f4. Okay, and that's just a, you know, already be down exchange. Remember, I already sacked a rook for a knight on h2. So now I decided to sack a piece of additionally, and this means that I'm going to be down a whole piece. So anyway, I have knight f4, and you know, again, the idea is just trying to attack the king. And now g3. Of course, now the idea is to cut off the f2 square from the king, you know, and once more you're threatening queen h2 mate. Rook c1, that's pretty much forced. Queen h2 check, king f1, e takes e4, f4. Now for a 1-minute game, I think we've reached an extremely interesting position. Basically what's happened is that you know, black's down an entire rook, but Fritz says he actually has some, you know, has good play because, you know, mainly because the white king is so short of running squares. And you know, that was the whole idea. This was basically my concept when I thought and decided to play knight f4, was to reach to this kind of position. Now here black, I think, has to play knight a3. He played knight d2, and that was, you know, pretty inferior. In a regular slow game, I would have given that, you know, dubious or question mark. But being this is just a 1 minute, you don't have time for those kind of decisions. And now black plays bishop h3. Okay, and here black's just winning completely. And if you would like to see the line, now what actually happened in the game, just very briefly, is white played b4, and that was obviously just a blunder because of queen h1 mate. That's what actually occurred in the actual game. Okay, and white actually thought a little bit. He thought for like 10 or maybe even 20 seconds when I played bishop h3, and then he played b4, you know, forgetting, either seeing or just forgetting about the queen h1 mate idea. But let's just look at the line here, because this is a very interesting position. Again, you know, the proof is that the sack is sound, that the current position, black's doing okay, can be found in this analysis, which has all been checked with Fritz and Houdini. And the main line is bishop takes h3 check, queen h3 check, queen g2, queen takes g2, king takes g2, rook h2 check, king g1, rook takes d2, rab1, knight e5, that's a very good move, hits both the f3 and the d3 squares. Rook f1, that was forced. I mean, black is threatening the Arabian mate. Knight takes f3 check, king h1, rook h2 checkmate. So, or knight takes f3 check, king f1, rook f2 checkmate, because of the pawn on g3 will protect the rook, and the knight on f3 would guard both e1 and g1. So black's threatening two different mate and ones if he's allowed to take on f3. So protecting on f1 was absolutely forced. And now rook takes d3, king g2, rook takes b3, bishop a1, rook to a3, bishop b2, rook takes a4. And here black has a knight and 4 pawns for the exchange, and it also appears that he's going to win the pawn on c4 as well. So basically you can call this a one position for black. I mean, there's not much doubt in that black has both a material and a positional advantage. He continues to play and chop off pawns, and actually the white king is not out of danger. If this bishop, you know, ever moves off the last row or gets to where it can't, or black ever managed to get in a check here on the last row, then, you know, check, and if the king goes to h3, rook h2 is going to be checkmate. So, you know, the white king is not even out of the woods, not even yet. But here, basically, black, the final position of my analysis, it would be that black would have 4 pawns and a knight for a rook, and it looks like he's going to pick off the c4 pawn as well. Anyway, that concludes my analysis of my 1-minute game. I already have a web page devoted to this game, so I hope you enjoy my analysis. If you do enjoy my analysis and you like my web pages and you like my videos, then I would ask you would go to the PayPal website. That's www.paypal.com, and just make a donation, you know, using my email address, which is lifemasteraj@yahoo.com. But anyway, thank you for watching my video, and I hope you have a great day.